This episode is brought to you by North Texas Honda Dealers. North Texas Honda Dealers, they're here to help.
He has time, launches it to the end zone. Touchdown! Terrence Williams!
The throw goes to the right side for Crabtree. It's caught. He he's going Red Raider.
What's he up the 10? What's he up the right sideline? Youngie's got to go. He's tackled. Sam Houston wins it. The Bearcats capture their first FCS championship.
Hello, welcome to Republic of Football. I'm your host, Ishmael Johnson, college editor here. What's up, Carter?
You're letting Grayson Allen win, Ish. He's living in your head right now. We gotta pivot past. I know this dropped like literally 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But it's football season still. You don't even need to worry about this. Is a future you problem.
I'm flustered right now. Mallory, hi. Producer, Malpal.
Hi, I'm tweeting a Grayson Allen GIF at you right now. Oh my God. So that's why I've been quiet. I just tweeted it, so.
Okay, so for those of you that are not familiar, if you don't follow the NBA, I am a Phoenix Suns fan, and they just traded DeAndre Ayton, which I'm not upset about. What I am upset about is that one of the players they got back was, one was Yusuf Nurkic, who's a good starting NBA center. But in addition to him, they got arguably my least favorite basketball player of like the last 10, 15 years in Grayson Allen.
But it's not like he's going to like play for y'all, right?
Carter, let me tell you something about the Phoenix Suns bench. The bench stinks. So he will indeed play.
But what
this team.
did he average much points last year? I mean, much minutes a game last year? Like he wasn't playing that much, right?
Well, Carter, let me read off. Since 2020, he's been playing 25 plus minutes a game for both the Grizzlies and the Bucks. So yeah, no, he's playing. So that's why I'm feeling dejected right now, is because I have to now find a way to cheer for Grayson Allen on my favorite basketball team.
We'll get you. Hey, you know what? We'll get you a jersey, and you will just be the biggest fan ever. Yeah. How about that?
You can practice rooting for Grayson Allen at the Republican debate tonight.
Oh,
God.
All right. I got to zone back in. All right. We do have some news. That's better than Grayson Allen.
Are you sure?
I mean, it's the low bar. So, Power Poll. Let's start off like we do every show with the Wednesday show. By the way, we will have Jay Arnold on to talk about some news out of College Station. If you haven't paid attention to the Connor Wigman, unfortunately, the Connor Wigman news, we'll have him on as well because they come to AT&T to play Arkansas. So we'll have Jay Arnold, Twitter personality / co-host, former A&M lineman as well, but also co-host of Aggie War Pod if you are subscribed to Republic of Football. Okay, so let's get to the Power Poll really quick before we get into the Connor Wigman news. Mallory, throw it up. So some movement.
The exact same. No, it's the exact same.
I'm messing with you. It's the exact same. I mean, look, we're kind of familiarizing ourselves with what the state is right now, right? I think now that we're entering conference play, we kind of now have a resume for a lot of these teams, so we're not really speculating.
The identities are starting to form.
Yeah, identities are starting to form. If you would have told me that Tech State would have been fourth, I would have been like, sixth. I would have been like, what's happening here? But regardless, yes, identities are starting to form. So.
No, yeah, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that we would, at week 5, have Rice at 5 and Texas State at 6, I would have looked at you like you were crazy.
I was about to say, the first 3, fair. Texas, TCU, A&M. That's about what I would – maybe you can say A&M had the most variance, right? Like they could be higher, lower, whatever. But fair enough. I think the one that we're going to be looking back on probably – the one that's probably – we should probably be higher on right now, I think, is TCU, is because everybody was so down on them after week 1. I think people are now looking at that with some context, right? Week 1, don't really know what to expect from Colorado. Colorado looks to have some talent, right? I know they got kind of embarrassed last weekend, but like they did have offensive talent. They have a potential first-round quarterback. They had one of the best two-way players in the country. Probably the only two-way player in the country, and Travis Hunter, who went off in that game. So that loss isn't looking like the national embarrassment that people were treating it as.
Yeah, because that was also the week that they had no idea what to scout for.
Sure.
They had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, it's like you're scouting Sean Lewis's Kent State team, I guess, like to see what he's going to run.
So they just got, dominated by a Colorado team that they had no idea what to prepare for. I think that first game, week 1, is always weird. I think now that they've put together three straight wins, right? They're 3-1.
Yep.
I think TCU's all fine right now.
TCU, I think TCU will be fine, and I think that they're kind of what Craven kind of mentioned in his 411 is like they're kind of emerging as like actually a Big 12 contender. Because, like, obviously Texas is up there, Oklahoma right now. I'm still a little wary on what Oklahoma is.
I have no idea if they're good or not.
I think their defense is legitimately good. Their offense, I think, is so limited, I think, with Dylan Gabriel back there. I think he's a serviceable quarterback. I'm of somebody who is wondering when they're going to pull the Jackson Arnold.
Jackson Arnold is the most popular guy in Norman right now.
I was about to say, like, because I watched the offense, and I'm like, this is a fine offense. And Dylan Gabriel, so you look at his numbers, he's fine. But he's mobile-ish, but like when you're used to Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray mobile, right? Dylan Gabriel's not, and even Spencer Rattler was mobile. He wasn't a runner, but he was mobile. Dylan Gabriel's not that. And I don't know if they run exactly what they want to run, what Jeff Lebby wants to run fits him, as opposed to Jackson Arnold, who can stretch the field and is a very, very good athlete despite being his size. You know, he's like 6'6", 6'5". He's a big guy, but he can really run.
With Jackson Arnold 6'6"?
I have no idea.
No, he's not. He looks like 6'2".
Is he?
He's a big guy.
He looks. He's weight. He looks.
Yeah, he's
bigger.
a big guy.
Maybe the weight. I just think he's bigger. Oh yeah, he's like 6'1". Jesus, I'm way off. He looks big. Am I?
Needs to get in the post.
Yeah.
He needs to play for the Suns instead of Grayson Allen.
Why are we trading for Grayson Allen? We trade for Jackson Arnold. I'm way overcompensating himself. He always looked bigger to me, Denton Geyer. I don't know why.
He did.
And then also Dylan Gabriel looks like he's 5'7".
True.
Even though he's like 5'10", 5'11". He looks very small compared to. So I don't know. I get it's a Lord of the Rings perspective trick
like
on me, I guess.
when Coach adds a couple inches on the roster. Just
Oh
to
yeah,
make him look
my guy runs a
little bit
4.2,
better.
and he's like, Coach, your guy runs a 4.8. Like, regardless, he for a bigger guy, and I mean bigger, like he's a stocky guy too. Like he can run. So I'm wondering. I don't know. We'll see about Oklahoma when they play Texas. I think they got Iowa State this week, so I don't know what more we're going to learn about them in that game.
Yeah, probably not much more.
I've got a question about this power poll.
Go for
I
it.
see Texas Tech and Baylor, respectively, at 9 and 10. Is that where they bottom out no matter what happens, or can we see them go 11, 12, 13? Like, I'm wondering from recent years, do we see the Big 12 teams bottom out in like the 13 level?
I think we can see Baylor bottom out.
Yeah.
I think Tech again. Well, we can talk about Tyler Shuck as well because some news came out that he's probably gonna miss the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But they have Baron Morton, right? As rough as Baron Morton looked last week, he is the guy for the future that they are investing in. So, like, they do have a starting caliber quarterback there. I don't feel the same way about Sawyer Robertson and Baylor. It looks like they need Blake Shapen back. And so and then even if they get him back, I don't know how good that team is. I really don't think that team is very good this year. So I think Baylor could absolutely potentially bottom out. Now, I think UNT will be better with Chandler Rogers. So I could see them jumping Baylor just based on momentum. Sam Houston, once they start getting into Conference USA play, we'll see. They could potentially. UTEP, same, right? So, yeah, there is a world where Baylor bottoms out and finishes 13th if Conference USA kind of leans to Sam Houston and UTEP's favor.
So all the coaches in college this weekend decided to turn into WWE characters.
Oh, yeah, they were all cutting promos. It started with Lanning in Oregon just kicking off the weekend with his promo on Colorado.
I'll say something for Baylor so they can use it as momentum. And Baylor fans, I'm doing this for you so Dave Aranda can use this in his next press conference. It's over. This season's done.
It's kind of looking over.
I mean, it's 1-3 right now at home. Even if you get Blake Shapen back, I don't think the problem is Sawyer Robertson.
No,
I think
it
the
isn't.
problem is deeper within the team.
Right. The problem is the thing with Sawyer Robertson is highlights so much more wrong with the team, right? It highlights that the offensive line is not very good because he can't move. It highlights that they rely probably a little too much on the run game because he's not really able to maneuver to these wide receivers, and also the wide receivers kind of haven't been that great this year either. It highlights the fact that they can't stop anybody on defense and they can't score, so they're giving up points on defense. And I think Max Olson from The Athletic put out their stop rate rankings for the year, and Baylor's 108, I think, right now, which is basically like how many times you're forcing punts and basically stopping drives. It's a good metric to measure like pace of play, right? If you're giving up a lot of drives but not a lot of touchdowns, you're actually rated higher than if you're giving up few drives and few touchdowns, things like that. Baylor's 108, which is not something you would expect from a Dave Aranda team.
I hope Baylor wins versus UCF, and in the post-game interview on the field, Dave Aranda's like, what Carter Yates said about Baylor, I cannot believe.
Lit a fire.
Pull
under this team.
a Ryan Day about when
amazing.
he went off of Lou or whatever.
Holtz.
Lou Holtz,
Yes.
yeah.
And Lou Holtz is like sleeping, but at the time he's talking about the press conference. He's like, I don't even remember what I said. By the way, did you see what Lou Holtz said in response to that?
Yes.
He was like, you should be worried about Michigan.
Yeah, literally.
I was like, yo, that's dope. I was like, I just hope this continues to escalate. That after
I do
every win,
too.
Ryan Day just calls out Lou Holtz, and Lou Holtz is like, well, have you beaten Michigan yet?
I'm so excited for that.
But anyway, we're gonna get Jay Arnold on in a bit, but I do want to hint a little bit on Connor Wigman. We'll talk more about this in a bit. Connor Wigman, more or less, I think Jimbo did confirm it actually, will be out for the rest of the year. He reportedly needs surgery. He believe it was initially reported to be a high ankle sprain. They did some MRI testing. Originally, neck X-rays were negative, but MRI testing I think needed some swelling to go down. I think that's what kind of happened, and yeah, it looks like he is out for the year. So they are rolling with Max Johnson, who, again, to his credit, looked pretty good against Auburn. I don't think Auburn's that great, but compared to last year where Max Johnson did not look great, I think that's a positive-ish way to maybe look at the future for them.
I just can't believe Connor Wigman walked out of the stadium with a season-ending injury.
He
Like,
did
can
not
we get
have
this
any
guy
help.
a stretcher?
He did not
or
have any
something?
help. He just straight up limped off the
He was
field.
just limping. Took him like 30 minutes to get to the locker rooms. Like,
Yeah.
can someone like Wounded Warrior carry this guy or something?
Yeah, seriously. All right. So before we get to Jay, I do want to tell you a little bit about our beautiful, wonderful friends at Home Field Apparel. Carter, do you have any home field stuff?
Not yet. I'm still searching.
Well, you don't have a lack of options to choose from, right? Obviously, you're a Texas grad. You're a Texas boy. You just put out a piece about how Texas fans need to be a little bit embracing of the ride, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so, by the way, go check that piece out. Carter talked about how the idea of Texas being back is kind of a myth and not really something that exists. In a way, you should celebrate how good they are. Being number 3 in the poll right now is Home Field Apparel. Promo code DCTF, 50% off your first-time purchase. And they have a ton of tech. They had 2 launches for Texas in particular. The recent launch was awesome. They have the Runnin' Horns logo, which is basketball. They have it's really, really cool. A lot of our in-state FBS programs have home field affiliates or home field brands, I should say. And by the way, if you don't want to support us, I mean, as much as we would love for you to use promo code DCTF, every single show on the Republican Football Network has their own promo code. So feel free if you want to support the people at Frogs Insider, Aggie War Pod, Square and Around. They all have their own promo code that they all give you the same deal of 15% off your first time purchase. I believe Home Field's also actually about to announce something for this state. Not a new school, but a new T-shirt. I think they just put it out actually for the Texas-Kansas game. So they have like a new sweater, I think, for the upcoming Texas.
No one works harder than Home Field Apparel dropping new
They
merch.
are hustling. They dropped a Sam Hartman NIL T-shirt last week before the Ohio State game. Like, they're awesome.
Rocks.
By the way, if you're a Colts fan, they're based in Indianapolis, so they have Colts gear.
Okay.
And so like I think they launched that last year, which is
Yeah.
actually pretty cool. So again, promo code DCTF or any of the 13 programs on the Republican Football Network. Go check out their promo codes and support the shows as well. Speaking of the Republican Football Network and speaking of promo codes that you could plug, Jay Arnold is on now with us. Jay, what's up, man? And by the way, what's the promo code for Aggie War Pod?
The promo code for Aggie Warpod is WHOOP. That's WHOOP. You know, my voice is a little bit hoarser than usual. Playing hurt today, I went to the Penn State Whiteout this weekend and had a great time up there.
Ooh, man, I was gonna say
What a
you're
game.
not too you haven't been crying too much about the Connor Wigman news, have you?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm bummed for Connor,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, A&M's kind of in a lucky position that they have a quarterback as a backup as good as Max Johnson.
Yeah. So we were kind of talking a little bit about that. You know, obviously a huge blow because it looked like last year the hype was that, okay, Connor Wigman looks like the guy and he looks like somebody potentially who could take this offense, if it clicks under Bobby Petrino, to new heights. Obviously a huge blow to him, but you mentioned it. Max Johnson, particularly last week, I think this system, and to me, this is why you hire Bobby Petrino, not only to get the best out of a Connor Wigman, but to also make the overall position better. And do you think you saw enough to where you have confidence in Max Johnson to where the floor, the ceiling may not be there with Connor Wigman, but the floor is now also raised?
No, I think the floor is definitely raised. And a big part of that, too, is the weapons that A&M has around the quarterback. I mean, you look at the receiver guys like Evan Stewart and, now Jake Johnson as a tight end. There's just so many weapons around. And Aya Smith, I mean, it feeds in that Bobby Petrino offensive philosophy of feeding the studs. And I think, with Max Johnson coming in, you're not going to have as much of a drop-off as you would think.
Jay, I want to ask you about the defensive side of the ball for A&M. Mike Craven, your podcast co-host, dropped kind of a scathing column a bit about the DJ Durkin issue with Texas A&M. What are your thoughts on this defense early in the season, and maybe what can we expect from them?
Yeah, I mean, so DJ Durkin and his philosophy, it felt like he was trying to have more of a bend but dope break approach in the first few games. And against Miami, they went to a bend and break approach. But against Auburn, I was a little bit encouraged by the performance because it seemed like he allowed the defensive line to get after the quarterback a little bit more than they have. It worked out to the tune of 7 sacks and 15 tackles for loss, which helped limit an Auburn offense that isn't particularly great. But there are some positives that you can take away from that. I still think that there's some problematic approaches in DJ Durkin's defensive philosophy, but I do think he allows the defensive line to kind of pin their ears back, get some penetration, get upfield a little bit more. It can help make up for some of the issues in the back end.
Looking a little bit at this Arkansas game, you've played in this rivalry. Like, it always seemed like even when things were going south or perceivedly going south for A&M under Kevin Sumlin or at any time, it always just seemed like, all right, Arkansas is coming up. It's going to be a crazy game, but they're always going to win. Obviously, they got one in 2021. But what's this game like? It feels like this is obviously an old Southwest Conference matchup, things like that. But it always feels like this game is kind of crazy for, like, no real reason. I think last year the game swung on that KJ Jefferson fumble that was returned for a touchdown. It always seems like there's some type of, like, wild, crazy moments in this.
Yeah, it's just pure chaos. I mean, this game is the kind of game that takes – as a fan, and even more years off of your life as a player. It's just, it's a lot to go through. And for some reason, like even if Arkansas is down or A&M's down, it seems like it's all a very, very tight game. I mean, sometimes you see the games go to overtime. I mean, it's just one of those games that weird things like that KJ Jefferson fumble last year always happen. To be honest with you, it's not fun to go through. It's you would much rather have a dominant win and get out of there unscathed. Just not the way this game plays out, and it's kind of why I think the rivalry between the fans has been kind of reignited, is because of the closeness of those competitions.
Jay, you mentioned earlier, like, feed the studs, and I'm wondering on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, maybe, like, has there been a guy on either side who has really taken you by surprise this year, or maybe you weren't expecting as much and has looked far better than you thought?
I mean, you look at a guy that I was expecting to do really well, and unfortunately has gotten hurt in Noah Thomas, but his similar receiver, a big-bodied guy in Ja'Day Walker that stepped up and played pretty well. since the loss of Thomas. And then defensively, I think Torian York, as a true freshman, coming in and being pretty much the quarterback of that defense and stepping up and making plays as he has. I mean, it's hard not to be impressed with that guy. He's playing so far above what he was rated coming out of high school, and he's a guy that I liked a lot. I thought he was going to make an impact early, but I mean, even from that, it's just blown my expectations away.
Yeah. A little bit more on Torian York, because it always seemed like the A&M front was always a strength in the secondary, but it seems like it's been a while since that linebacking core had somebody as rangy as him to show as a freshman right now. That was one thing that I noticed, because the A&M had always gotten these highly touted guys, and you played along some highly touted guys when you were there, but it always seemed like they never, for whatever reason, could never get the best out of them, as opposed to the first and even the third level kind of being the strengths going through the past era, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you had a guy in Buddy Johnson that was really talented in that in between, but linebacker is a position that A&M should recruit. I think part of that goes to the state of Texas as well as just the linebacker position. It's not a flashy position. It's not a position that kids want to play like it used to be. Yeah. Guys either want to be in the secondary or they want to be that the edge defender that's a pass rusher. So it's hard to recruit linebackers, and I think that's part of why A&M has struggled. But at the same time, I mean, they just haven't been able to put it together. So it's great to see a guy like Torian York step up.
All right, Jay, I know this is a crazy game, A&M Arkansas. Do you have a prediction?
Oh, man. So we just recorded the Aggie War Pod, and my was that, there's no way I can give a prediction because this game is just utter chaos.
Yeah.
But the final score that I decided on was 35-32 in favor of Texas A&M.
All right.
Okay.
Like
high-scoring affair.
I could see it. Again, this game makes no sense. Like, this game.
Well, and Arkansas has been putting up points. I mean, I think they've scored in both of their last two games against BYU and LSU.
Yeah.
And then A&M, I mean, defensively, you're going to struggle to contain KJ Jefferson, just between the ability to break tackles and then get the ball downfield. 70% completion percentage last week against LSU. So he's not just a runner. Like he's also excellent at throwing the ball. I think you're going to see a lot of points put up in this game.
Yeah. I think KJ Jefferson is like the first guy that comes to mind of people I would never want to tackle.
God, it looks like it hurts. Like, it just looks like it just hurts. It's like he's going to get 3 yards, and it's going to hurt. So, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. How big is he? He's almost 250. Jesus. At least according to the Arkansas. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, that's a good. Who was your least favorite player to tackle?
Derrick Henry, easily.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, man, I forgot you played during that. Oh, man, that's rough.
And that was true freshman Derrick Henry. That wasn't even Final Form Derrick Henry.
Yeah, have you ever? I was about to say you're going against a running back who's like your size. It's like I've never dealt with this before.
And much faster.
All right, last one before we let you go. This one's a little bit on the lighter side. Obviously, Wigman is out for the year now, but I know I saw some people messing with you on Twitter about his NIL deal. You're a Dukes man, and he signs Hellman's NIL deal. Did you have to make some calls? Say, hey, what happened here? Where'd the Dukes money come from?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a little bit disappointing to see. It's part of it, and I'm glad that he's getting it back because, I'm just still kind of bitter that I didn't get my NIL opportunities because it wasn't a thing yet when I was.
That's a good point. Well, like I said, Dukes will have you set up. It's all good. I'll make some calls for Dukes to get you that retrospective money. There you go.
Yeah, let me see if I can get eligibility in a different sport or something.
There you go. That'll work. All right, man. Jay, rest that voice up because we need you this weekend. Where are you at this weekend?
So actually, me and Mike are both going to be at Sam Houston State tomorrow night.
Nice.
And then I'll be kind of taking it easy on Saturday and resting and recovering.
There you go. Eat some lozenges, drink some tea, and you'll be ready to go for next week. So that's Jay Arnold, former defensive lineman for A&M. He proudly hosts the Aggie War Pod with Mike Craven on the Republican Football Network. Go ahead and give him a follow and listen on this same feed if you are subscribed to ROF. Aggie War Pod drops every Wednesday. Is that right? About?
Usually, obviously, we had a little bit of a shakeup between my voice not being great and me traveling back from the whiteout, but should be out tomorrow. But normally it'll drop on Wednesday.
Cool. All right, man. Take care, buddy.
Thank you all for having me.
All right, Jay Arnold. Yeah, so I guess we can wrap up the A&M Arkansas discussion there. I mean, again, I remember when I first started at this job, it was kind of the downturn-ish of Kevin Sumlin, right? And it was like when the fans kind of started to trying to figure out what exactly they got going here. Every year it was always like, oh, they beat Arkansas. It was like, didn't matter, right? I believe there was the one year that went into like double overtime. It was like 45-43, and it was just like, what's happening here? What's going on in this game? Sky is falling. Sky could be falling, and for all we know, this happened literally last year. Sky was falling everywhere. Haynes King's not the guy. Connor Wigman, is he ready? Max Johnson's not good enough. KJ Jefferson fumbles, and they return for a touchdown. They beat Arkansas. So our intern Naomi Brown will actually be on site for this one. So definitely give her a follow, and she'll have some dispatch from AT&T.
At AT&T, I think it's so awesome how this rivalry is played at a neutral site because that's how you get the craziest games.
Oh, 100%.
You know, that's like Texas and Oklahoma throw the records out. Like it's going to be a crazy game no matter what. These neutral site rivalry games, like we need to have more of these.
I was about to say, I miss the. Do Florida and Georgia still do the cocktail party in Jacksonville?
I don't know.
I thought they stopped it because that was similar. Where it's like I think of the cocktail party, I think of the Red River, Army Navy's obviously always played in Philly. Like I do love the neutral site, the established neutral site rivalry games are also really cool. So I think Sam and SFA was at NRG for a while before they stopped playing that one. So yeah, I think that's I agree. I'm a fan of the neutral site games. All right, what do we got for what was our other games of the week?
Let's go ahead and
let's go into it, Mallory.
So I was going to just touch on this a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Texas A&M and Arkansas are playing at 11 a.m. on Saturday. You can watch it on SEC Network, and Texas A&M coming in as 6.5-point favorites.
I think that's about fair. Yeah,
it's about fair. Yeah, I agree. Jay's prediction was a little bold. That's a lot of points.
Yeah, especially
a lot of points.
I like what I saw from Max Johnson, but it's still a backup quarterback.
That's true. That's true. Our second top matchup of the week is number 3 Texas hosting number 24 Kansas. It's so weird to say that they're ranked. That's so strange. This Saturday, September 30th at 2:30 p.m. You can watch it on ABC. Texas coming in as 16.5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 62.5.
So I'll say this: people are gonna make the Texas lost to Kansas joke. Texas lost to bad Kansas. Let me get that clear. Texas has looked pretty okay against good Kansas. Let me. The 2 times that Texas has lost to Kansas, it's been the embarrassing Kansas.
Right.
Lance Leipold has his team around. They're not the Kansas that can walk in, that can just like be slept on and walked over. They have to worry about them now, and I think they handle business. I really do. Like I do think Jalen Daniels is playing great right now. Kansas looks incredible. I thought last year Lance Leipold wouldn't be there for a while. I think he might be. He has that program completely turned around. But that, to me, that leans credence to why Texas will be better against them because they know, okay, this is the ranked team. Like, we know exactly what the offense is crazy, but they prepared for it well last year. I believe that was Jalen Daniels' first game back after injury, or he got hurt in that game. I thought there was some injury issues with him last year.
He was back, but he was not Jalen Daniels.
Right. He was not. Game. So, like, there is something to worry about there, sure.
The dude had his highlights on an Apple Watch.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. At Big 12 Media Day. No,
this is not your average Kansas team. The quarterback is awesome.
He rocks. Jalen Daniels rocks. But again, that's why I lead credence to I think that's why Texas takes care of business. Is because this isn't a team that's like the times that Texas lost to Kansas where the sky was falling. Okay, thank God, here's Kansas. Let's just beat them and get out. And then they weren't prepared and they got beaten. There's no all of that's out the window. Texas, the sky isn't falling for Texas. There's hype there. There's legitimate belief there. And you see a 24 next to Kansas. You're like, oh, this team's good now.
Yeah.
I just think it's so interesting in this game how, like, 2 years ago when Texas lost to Kansas, that was, like, the point in this program of something actually has to change.
Sure.
And it was Sark's first year, and it was actually rock bottom, the 2-point conversion.
Yep.
And there's a lot of guys on this roster who were on that team and who did go 5-7. And that's part of the reason I wrote the column about, like, why you should believe in this Texas team is because they have gone through that tough experience.
Yeah.
And when, like, Christian Jones, the offensive tackle, was talking about it, like, he's getting DMs on Twitter, and he's, like, wondering if he's even, like, the guy anymore at tackle. And it was a real come-to-Jesus moment for these Texas Longhorns. This Texas team, I don't know if I'm going to say they cover because 16.5 is a lot.
That's a lot.
And Jalen Daniels kind of scares me.
Yeah.
But they're going to win this game.
I think so, too. I'm very fascinated by this game because Kansas is. This is to me, obviously, Bama is obviously was obviously the first real test for Texas, but now that we're entering conference play, it's kind of like we kind of look at the schedule until Oklahoma, and we're kind of like, okay, Texas should take care of business, right? Like theoretically, in your mind, you look at the schedule and you're like, on paper, they should take care of business. And
Kansas is sneaky the third best team in the Big 12.
I was about to say,
now.
like right now,
are there only 3 ranked teams?
three ranked teams. Yes, 3 ranked
Texas,
teams, and
Oklahoma,
probably
Kansas.
yeah. And I haven't seen enough from Kansas State. They lost to Missouri, which Missouri looks pretty okay right now. So I don't want to throw that against them. Kansas State and TCU are kind of like those like sleeper potential contenders. So this is to me the first test in Big 12 terms of if Texas rolls Kansas, then I'm like, oh, okay, like this. People are going to struggle in this conference to slow this team down, right? I'm not side-eyeing Texas if this is close because I think Kansas is that good, but I'm more looking for like if Texas is what we think they could be and this offense, whether it's stop and start or whatever, I don't have issues with that. I think that's getting a little too overblown where everybody's like, is Quinn's arm consistent? Or I think it's been fine. I think the Jonathan Brooks has been really, really effective in the run game. C.J. Baxter as a backup is insane. Like I think they have depth everywhere. If they can slow down Jalen Daniels on offense, this defense will hit another level for me.
The thing to watch for is like Texas' defensive line. I saw CJ Vogel on Twitter. He's a great follow. He does a lot of Texas stuff. Yep. But he said Kansas running back Devin Neal is averaging 4.22 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown between the tackles. Okay. 9.33 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns off the ends on this one. So this is where the outside linebackers are going to really come into play for Texas here, and those run fits have to be on point because if you let Devin Neal bounce to the outside, he's going to hurt you.
This could be another good breakout Anthony Hill game, potentially. Yeah. Just him scanning the middle of that field. So we'll see. What is next, Mallory?
Our last top matchup of the week, Texas Tech hosting Houston this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. You can watch it on FS2. Texas Tech coming in as 8-point favorites. The over-under set at 51.
This one is intriguing.
Anxiety bowl, but not for the reasons why I think the term was made up. Because the term was originally made by Stephen Godfrey when there's coaches on the hot seat and you got to figure out Joey McGuire is not on the hot seat. What I mean by that is we're about to figure out which one of these teams is just we don't have to worry about the rest of the year, in my opinion.
Loser leaves town game.
I was about to say, again, Joey McGuire is fine. He's not getting fired. But as far as Tech being considered a dark horse, I'm already wavering off of that. I think a lot of people are. If they lose this game, we can just put them over. It's a rebuild year, right? You just kind of look for 2024. If Houston loses this game, all right, we can just put them over here, right? Like just kind of slide them over here, and it's probably a punt year for their first year in the Big 12. I don't know where I'm leaning. I really don't know where I'm leaning on this. I want to say the problem with me is that Tech's offense has just not looked good.
The problem is the offensive line.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Texas Tech and Houston are tied at 112th in the nation in sacks allowed. So both quarterbacks duck and cover in this game.
Well, here's the problem. Tech's guy that was able to do that last year plays for Houston now.
Houston now. That's right.
And so, look, Tyler Shuck.
Donovan Smith revenge game.
I was about to, listen, there is that factor because he was like, oh, I'm not in the room anymore. All right, cool. I'm going to Houston. He played great last week against Sam Houston, a good Sam Houston defense. I think that was the type of confidence game that made me not completely shut the door on Houston this year. Because, again, they have better players than Sam Houston. That's not what I'm saying. Sam Houston's defense is legitimately in the top half of the country, and the fact that Houston was able to go through it and dominate on offense through the air, on the ground, like consistently, makes me think that there is a level to this offense that we haven't seen yet.
Donovan Smith is like the just when I'm out, he pulls me right back in guy.
100%. Like, again, he didn't play well against Rice until late. He didn't play well against UTSA. He didn't play well against TCU. So you're like, you kind of have those stop and starts. And then he just completely has his best game probably of his college career, like top to bottom against Sam Houston
against
last
a
week.
Good defense.
Against a really good defense. So Tech's defense, a little suspect.
Here's the thing about Tech's defense. They can't stop a running quarterback.
No, they can't stop a running back.
3 of the 4 games they've played, the top rusher has been the quarterback.
That's a good point.
And Donovan Smith is like not the most mobile guy, but he can tuck the ball and run.
I was about to say, if it's 3rd and 7, they clear the field, he can get that 7. Mm-hmm. So Yeah, I'm
and
worried.
Texas Tech's defense has practiced trying to not tackle him in practice. So
yes, that's good. Yeah. So I do want to hit on the offense one more time with Texas Tech. You mentioned the offensive line. Even with that being said, I still think there's been a big Tyler Shuck's out, so now the running game takes a hit as well. Because as much as we complained about him being involved a little, probably too much in the run game, he was involved in the run game. Mm-hmm. And Taj Brooks had a great game last week against West Virginia. I know the weather wasn't great, and of course they had to play him a lot with Tyler Shuck out. But Baron Morton's not a dual he can move, but he's not a dual threat guy. He's not somebody you're going to run power with. He's not somebody that's going to be that much of a running threat. And then the play calling on offense just hasn't looked that inventive. It's not what I expected from a Zach Kitley offense going back to his days at Western Kentucky or Houston Christian. Is that a I don't have Bailey Zappi type thing, or is that just I don't know. It's not the offense that I thought I'd be watching. And sure, offensive line plays a part in that. But we saw last year they were able to do some interesting things with an offensive line that wasn't very good. So I'm actually going to lean Houston on this one.
The thing that stuck out to me, and Joey McGuire said this in his Tuesday presser, I think, but basically said they had 1st and 10 from the 11-yard line with 2 minutes left, 2 timeouts, and they should have ran the ball once or twice in that situation, he said. He's like, they passed it twice in that situation. And he says there are times where he will jump in and kind of say who they should get the ball to. So it's one of those deals where we were wondering, okay, is this not all Zach Kitley? Does Joey McGuire have a bigger imprint on the offense?
Sure.
And I'm not saying, like, look, Joey McGuire's hawking in and, like, actually saying what the play calls, but, like, I think it is a little bit more collaborative than we originally thought.
Yeah, I think that's safe to put because, again, you can just look at the numbers.
My biggest
it's a difference.
My biggest concern with Texas Tech is they're 1-6 on the road under Joe McGuire. Like,
Yep.
I don't know what that is, if that's a mentality issue, if that's like a not handling business issue. But here are their road games remaining. Baylor and McLean Stadium, which is an unstoppable force, meets an immovable object.
Somebody's got to win that game.
BYU, they're straight up going to lose that game. If they right now, Texas Tech will lose in Provo.
Right.
Like, no way they can handle that.
What time's that game? Is there a time yet for that one?
I don't know if there's a time.
Nighttime in Provo gets a little hostile.
And then Kansas and Texas are their other road games.
Oh my God.
So 3 of those 4 games, I'm like, if you're a bad team on the road, you're not winning that game.
And McGuire, he's talked about that too. Like, he knows. Like, it's not just a whatever. He's like, we got to figure out how to win road games. Like, straight up. That's honestly the best thing I could say about Tech in this game is that it's at home, and that might be the reason they pull it out because they're fantastic at home. But I'm actually leaning, just based on how I feel about both teams right now, I think I'm leaning Houston. So I think that's
I don't know.
I think I'm still leaning Tech.
I'm leaning Tech.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be on my
Houston looks all nice. You watch them versus Sam Houston.
I know,
they
right?
pull you back in.
Yeah, you got to remember that's Sam Houston.
I know. I'm skewed because I do like that Sam Houston defense a lot. But I don't know. We'll see. What's next, Mallory? We're going to our wide zone.
Yep, moving into the wide zone.
We got to rename this. The wide zone's not really that great, right? Baylor.
I know.
It's based off the offense Baylor, and we got to
really
rename the segment.
Yeah, it's really not. We'll think on that this week. First game up in the wide zone, Sam Houston hosting Jacksonville State this Thursday, tomorrow night. September 28th at 7 p.m. You can watch it on ESPNU. Jacksonville State coming in as 6.5-point favorites. The over-under is a whopping 36.5.
Oh, my God. I mean, that's
Low
fair.
scoring.
Look, Sam Houston's offense is not good.
Yeah.
They started Grant Gunnell last week for the first time.
Which Carter and I called that. Do you remember that on the preview episode last week? We called that.
Yeah.
We were like, I think maybe this could be the game we see Grant Gunnell.
Yeah.
So
Look, good call. Like, because the quarterback hasn't.
Why not?
Well, yeah. Here's the thing: the quarterback has not been similar to Texas Tech, or who were we just talking about?
Houston.
Baylor. Baylor. Yes.
Oh,
with
Baylor.
Blake Shapen.
Oh, yeah.
We just named every team. We just talked about Baylor with Blake Shapen or Sawyer Robertson. It has not been the issue, right? Quarterback has not been the issue for Sam Houston. But what's the biggest thing you could do just to change something up on offense? You got to change the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? Again, Keegan Shoemaker is not he hasn't proven to be a game breaker necessarily, but he hasn't been the one to lose them these games. They can't move the ball at all. They might be I'm going to have to double check. They may be like a bottom. I think they might be the last place rushing team in the country, right?
Yeah.
They might be the last place passing team, but they can't. Again, the offensive line is
last
not
place scoring team too.
Look, they didn't score a
The
touchdown.
numbers are bad.
They didn't score a touchdown till last week, guys. Okay, the first touchdown in FBS was last week. So what I'm trying to say is, it wasn't necessarily the quarterback position's fault, but that's the thing you can change, right? You can throw 5 running backs out there and it's not going to really change. You can change the quarterback if something clicks. Boom! All of a sudden the offense figures out something else. What I'm trying to say is, now that Sam Houston is fun, they've had an awfully brutal schedule.
Yeah,
brutal
Craven talked about
schedule.
that too in his piece
Yeah.
this week, which I'd encourage everyone to go read about.
Yes.
Sam Houston's transition from the FBS to the FBS.
They're finally playing somebody of their level.
Yes.
But basically, like, since it happened so late, that's why they had to schedule all those really hard teams,
Yes.
like the BYU, the Air Force, and stuff like that. Like, they didn't have like this where we can pick and choose like some ramp up games.
Sure.
It was like, hey, welcome to the FBS.
Yeah, here's 2 Big
Two
12
Power
teams.
5 teams.
Yeah, two Big 12 Power 5 teams, and here's probably the
in
best
a
service
strange
academy
Air
right now.
Force team like.
So again, this defense, I'm really excited to see this defense against a Jacksonville State team that's good, right? They beat UTEP week 1, but it's of the caliber of Sam Houston. And now, after getting body bagged for 3 weeks, right? And I say body bagged, they didn't lose, they didn't get blown out, but that offense really struggled, and that defense played its butt off so much, but it's still hard games. 14-0, 13-3, and then of course they lose 38-7 last week. You finally get a team that you line up against, like, oh, we're the same size as these guys, right? A lot of these guys are the same speed as us. This is what we need to do now. Conference USA going forward. We'll see. Liberty looks fantastic, but like everybody else looks within reach of them. So now Sam Houston can start gauging its season. So
My one worry with the defense being so good is, like, if the offense just can't figure it out,
Sure.
at what point does the defense give up?
listen, that's a morale issue I think that a lot of teams like that face, where you're
Because-
just like,
Well, if the offense also can't stay on the field, it's like
they're getting tired by
they're going
like
to get
fourth
tired
quarter.
out. But you're
Yeah.
right.
Because I didn't watch the Houston versus Sam Houston game enough to know if the defense gave up 38 points, and that's why.
No, I will say so. Houston was pretty consistently driving the ball. I think that was just a more talented team they ran into. So I don't think it was necessarily that. The other scores though were definitely like they can only do so much for so long. So yeah, I think Sam Houston had 25 carries for like 60 yards against Houston. So they just need to stay on the field. I think we'll see Grant Gunnell again because again it's not his fault that he only had 100 yards passing against Houston. But yeah, we'll see. I am interested in this one though. It should be a really cool time in Huntsville. If you're around the area, again, should be a really cool moment. Go to Bauer Stadium and check out. So
Yeah, and Craven and Jaron will be
yes, exactly.
there. All right, sticking in Conference USA, UTEP hosting Louisiana Tech this Friday, September 29th at 8 p.m. You can watch it on CBS SN. UTEP coming in as 1-point favorites.
This
The
one-
over-under set at 53.
Yeah,
This is very interesting.
I was about to say I don't know how I feel because as if you listen to the show, you know we've become experts on La Tech because they
La Tech.
played everybody apparently in the state already. I still don't know. I this is a game UTEP could win. I'm not saying they should win or whatever. I think this is a very even matchup. I think Parker Stats of War on Twitter, he puts out his advanced stats graphics, has it as basically a 50-50. Like I think it's 50.09 to 49.91, slightly in favor of La Tech. I think I have seen more positive-ish things in the games for La Tech, but I think for me, UTEP, it's about getting healthy because Deion Hankins didn't play last week. He was finally starting to turn it around. Of course, we can have the Gavin Hardison discussion until we all are red in the face. But I think it's about – I'm curious how healthy they're going to be because they had – I think Tyron Smith also missed last week. So was that just them resting in the last non-conference game before, or is that something to worry about? Because if those guys aren't healthy, then, yeah, La Tech's winning. But if they are – Tyron Smith could be the best player on the field. Deion Hankins could be the best player on the field, and they could win.
But, like, if those guys have a chance to play, I feel like they have to play.
No,
Or is it-
that's my thing. I think they're gonna
this
play.
is conference play now.
Yeah, my
like,
thing is,
yeah.
are they 70%?
Right.
I know we're, like, still early in conference play, but UTEP has played 5 games while everyone else has played 4, and this is
point,
kind
good
of a loser leaves town game.
Good point.
Honestly.
Good point. Yeah, no, because like UTEP, we talked about this all offseason with UTEP. You know, they got left out of the realignment, right? They're left in Conference USA because they're kind of in that weird geographical area of like, do you consider them part of the Texas market? Do you not? But regardless, what we all saw was well, they should theoretically hope to be one of the contenders in Conference USA, which was maybe something they couldn't be under the previous Conference USA. We saw them get blown out by UTSA and UNT, and it was like, okay, there seemed to be a feat too far for them at times. They should be very much in the thick of this race. We'll see, because like you mentioned I mentioned with injuries, and then you mentioned with them playing an extra week above a lot of other people in the country. Does that wear on them now, or is that a November issue, right? Because it's starting to look that's wearing on them now.
When's their bye week?
Their bye week is next week.
Okay.
So
they need that.
They need that. Yeah, they'll play FIU. They go to FIU on October 11th. But yeah, their bye week will be next week.
Yeah,
so
this is a can't lose game for me, honestly. For
that's
UTEP.
fair. No, it's fair. Like again, this is where you prove that you should be considered one of the contenders in the Conference USA. This is a level playing field now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree.
All right. Let's move on to the Big 12. Baylor playing at UCF this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. You can watch it on FS1. UCF coming in as 11.5-point favorites. The over/under 55.
All right. So UCF, it's Baylor's first shot at one of the new teams in the Big 12.
It's their first shot at one of the new teams. It's also their first away game.
That's right.
That is interesting.
They've gone 1-3 at home.
That's an interesting point. So for me, this is why this could potentially get ugly. I don't necessarily think that UCF's been a juggernaut. I think they've looked pretty good. When the new Big 12 was kind of finalized, you looked at Baylor, you looked at Tech, you looked at TCU and said, you guys should run this conference. You guys should theoretically run this conference. If UCF comes out and blows out Baylor in year one, what's that say? There's already a reckoning coming in Waco, whatever that means for this staff, I think, based on the trajectory. It starts to become like a when, not if, right, at that point. Because this is a team that's just walking in saying, cool, we're going to take this. We're going to take your status as a contender, and we're going to relegate you to probably the lower tier of the Big 12 right now for this year at least. To me, this is a very big tell game of how much this team still kind of has in terms of fight. Because right now, it's looking like you can kind of mush them. Texas just mushed them. I haven't seen Texas mush Baylor like that probably since the Mac Brown era. It was wild.
This entire season has just been mush.
That's
so
a good
far.
point. That's a good point.
At Baylor's press conferences, I was listening in.
They're very somber.
They're getting sad.
They're getting really, really somber.
Here's some of the questions I pulled out. Dave, are you evaluating yourself as a staff when you watch film? Dave, has there been some true serum distributed to the staff, and do they understand the consequences? Dave, despite whoever you are as a person, when you look at yourself in the mirror as a head coach, what has gone wrong? We are 5 weeks in.
I also want to remind people, this is in Waco. This is not in New York. This is not in Tuscaloosa, right? This is not in This is Waco. This isn't the most hostile the Waco Tribune does great work, right? But they're not the most hostile environment that you're like, oh, he's in the pressure cooker now. No, it's you're talking to the same guys every day, and even they're like, hey man, we see the writing on the wall, and it's not looking good. I think we learned everything about Baylor when they beat Long Island 30-7, and no one was happy. No one had a good time watching that game. Everyone was like, did anybody have fun watching that? No. It was Yeah, last week I think we had an idea last week could happen, but actually seeing how they just had no shot was pretty demoralizing. So
I think I learned what I needed to know about Baylor when they basically could get in the red zone if Texas muffed a punt and then
That's a good point.
would go -2 yards and kick a field goal to cut the deficit to 28-6.
Yeah.
That was what are we doing here?
Right.
Something to watch out for is UCF is 3rd in the nation with 260 rushing yards per game, and Baylor's 104th in the nation in rush defense.
Nice.
Is John Reese Plumlee healthy? Because I know
He's not healthy. He might play.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter. McLean's looked pretty good in this start, so Gus Malzahn's kept that offense kind of clicking. What's his name? Timmy McLean. He's put up decent numbers, so it might not matter. So yeah, that'll be one to watch. I will be interested in that one. So, what's next, Mallory?
All right, moving on to the American. Rice hosting East Carolina this Saturday at 6 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN+. Rice coming in as 3-point favorites. The over-under set at 46.
Very fascinated by this one because statistically, I just found out that – I mean, I didn't just find out, but I finally got confirmation that Rice's defense stinks this year. Really bad.
The numbers are in.
The numbers are in, and
and they're stinky.
Right. It's just now getting to the point in the season where you can look at the numbers and be like, okay, yeah, this makes sense, and they have enough data behind it. Obviously, they gave up a big lead to Houston, and that kind of worked. And you played Texas, and okay, sure, that's going to skew the numbers. Even then, when Rice, the past couple years, I think it's the biggest monkey paw scenario that Rice finally has a quarterback. They finally have an offense that looks pretty good. And then the other side of the ball falls off the cliff because they've always been respectable on defense. Mm-hmm. They haven't been dominating, but they've always been respectable. And it was always like they literally just need that quarterback. And then they can balance it all out, right? That defense might be bottom 10 in the country right now.
Yeah.
It was kind of like what we were worried about with Texas A&M a bit. Like they fix the offense and the defense falls off. It's like if we could just figure these out simultaneously, Rice and Texas A&M.
Yes.
Who's stopping us?
I was about to say yes. That's a good point. I will say
JT Daniels transfers to Texas A&M.
That's what we're saying, right? Did I just kick off the? Oh, look at that! All right, so if anybody's watching live.
Wow.
Anyway, so
Shmuel just hates our logo.
Live production here. That's what happens. I think there's a wire down here.
I would.
Oh, there is. Hold on 1 second.
I'd press the power button to put it back up, but I feel like I'd just end the stream if I did.
That's not how that works, but
I think I just plugged it back in. So we'll see in 10 seconds if it comes back on.
No.
Regardless, what I was saying is ECU is like a respectable program right now. I know they're 1-3. They're not. They haven't started off the year right, but Mike Houston actually has turned that program kind of around. They used to be kind of after the Ruffin McNeil era, they were kind of a pushover. And then Mike Houston was brought in from James Madison. And again, they've had kind of a tough start to the season. They played Michigan. They played at Appalachian State and Marshall, which all of a sudden looks pretty good right now. I think Marshall just beat Va Tech last week. So this is a decent test for Rice. I'm gonna lean Rice in this one, mainly because I think I've seen more that I love about this Rice team potentially than with ECU so far.
Okay, if we're saying the Rice defense stinks, though, then what we're really saying about the difference in this Rice team is actually JT Daniels, because Rice is 124.
Oh, look at that! You want the Roku one? I got the Roku on. Anyway, sorry, keep talking.
Because Rice
is going to be great for the audio, by the way.
Rice is 124th in the nation with 82 rushing yards a game right now. They had 13 carries for 7 yards against USF.
No, it was bad. Yeah.
So, what about this Rice team is good then? It's the passing game. If the defense is bad, if the rushing game's bad, then it's just the JT Daniels factor.
Which, again, I think it's very ironic because last year they could run the ball a little bit. Mm-hmm. They just kept turning the ball over when they put the ball in the air. So, yeah, I think it's a huge monkey paw where it's like you want a quarterback? Cool. Everything else stinks now.
You want a quarterback, but at what cost?
Right, exactly. Yes, literally. I think that's also, I will say, it's a credit to Bloomgren for kind of reinventing the offense because we know where he came from, right? He's a Stanford man. He would love to, quote-unquote, establish the run. Yeah. But he realizes, hey, look, that's probably not working this year. I'm going to throw for 400 yards with JT Daniels.
Yeah.
So,
and lose by 20.
And lose by 20. Listen, and still lose by 20.
Mean.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's what happened.
Regardless, I'm going to go with Rice in this one. They're at home. I still think the vibes are still pretty positive in Houston.
Do too. Well, okay, also, what is JT Daniels' health report, because he got hurt
That's
last
a good
week.
point.
They basically said he could have gone in hypothetically, but AJ Padgett, the guy, did fine.
Yeah.
So they were just we're not gonna risk it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think he didn't practice Monday or Tuesday, but at what point? I mean, does JT Daniels really is practice make or break for him?
Yeah. Our
right
guys
now?
at the Roost said he is preparing to start this
good.
weekend.
Okay.
So
The thing about East Carolina, though, is they're actually the most chaotic team in the country. Mm-hmm. They are 127th in the nation with 37 penalties in 4 games. And they've also forced 8 turnovers in 4 games. So it's
they've also played a tough schedule.
it's we're going to make things hell for you.
Yeah.
And also, we're not going to be able to do anything right.
Literally.
We're going to muck it up.
Yeah, exactly. Let me check out Mike. I do want to check out Mike Houston's record because I know he had the national title at James Madison. 4-8, 3-6, 7-5, 8-5 last year, and now 1-3 starts. So
Nice.
Again, he's done a solid job with ECU.
And they got a big QB who can run the ball, and Rice got torched by USF's QB running the ball last week.
Good point on that. Really good point on that. All right, Mallory, what's next?
All right. North Texas hosting Abilene Christian this Saturday at 6 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN+.
All right, so
Caw.
before I let Mallory
Happy caw.
I was about to say.
Hopefully.
I was about to say, before I let Mallory take this one, I'm actually very optimistic about this game because as much as when a joke like, oh, can ACU go into there? And they're not going to win.
No,
they're not going to win. So I am genuinely excited to see this offense again. Defense, we'll see. They made some adjustments against La Tech. They went to a 4-man front, and that proved to be enough. Mallory, what are you? I think again, it may not be rose-colored glasses or whatever, but I think I am more optimistic about this team now.
I am too, and I'm really optimistic now about Eric Morris too, that he can make those adjustments and realize what's not working, even though what he wants to do might not necessarily be working, so he can make those adjustments. I think we're going to see Chandler Rogers again. The depth chart came out, and Chandler Rogers was highlighted there. So
there's no or there anymore.
There's no or. I think it's a go for Chandler Rogers. But this is Stone Earl's former team, so maybe we'll see.
Let him get some licks in.
Yeah, maybe we'll see a little bit if we're up, 21.
Yeah.
Or 28 or so. Maybe we'll see a little bit of Stone Earl. But I'm feeling pretty optimistic about this game. If I'm a Mean Green fan, I think that they should roll them pretty easily.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling the same because even if they would have lost to La Tech, right? I think every year, I mentioned this to Craven on the recap show, every year you have this, I think it was in 2014, 2015, UTSA hosted UIW after UIW made the playoffs under Eric Morris. Everybody was like, ooh, can UIW beat UTSA? And UTSA beat them by like 30. Yeah. Last week, that's what it kind of reminded me of the Houston versus Sam Houston game. He was like, oh, can Sam Houston get the – and Houston just rolled.
Right, and UTEP UIW earlier this year too. Like,
you just see
kind of the same
you just see teams that have guys – versus a team that just doesn't have the same guys.
Right.
And sure, my alma mater's been a victim of the upset the other way of that, so like it can't happen. But UNT has recruited better than those Texas State teams did that lost to UIW. Just lining up the trenches, figuring like they'll be fine.
Play a clean game.
I think this is a great opportunity to get all the good mojo back.
I think so
for
too.
UNT, right? I don't know if it'll be to where people were hoping for before week 1, but I think that now going into conference play after this week, I think this is something going forward. They can be like, cool, took care of business, offense is rolling, defense, maybe be able to have its best game against a lesser opponent. We'll see.
Because then you play ACU, okay, you beat them. Then it's Navy next week, who not like a high-powered
Not
offense.
a crazy Navy team, yeah.
Not a crazy Navy team. So then, I mean, not to look too far in the future, but like hypothetically, take care of business, 3-2, okay, going to the Temple game.
Look, see, it's that what Mallory mentioned it. Eric Morris being willing to adjust.
Yes.
That was huge.
It might have saved their season legitimately.
Absolutely.
Because now, I'm not saying they're going to be a top defense now, but now you can patch something together, and if they can be just below average as opposed to awful, that could be enough for this offense to make up for it.
That's also so awesome to see too, because so many coaches are just so hard-headed and like my
Stuck
way,
in their ways,
my way is the best way.
Right. Sure.
So the fact that he pivoted that quickly is pretty crucial.
That's
I would say
optimistic
that's pretty
for
promising.
the future too.
Exactly. All right, Mallory, what's next?
All right, the Fighting Schmales, Texas State playing at Southern Miss this Saturday at 6 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN+. The Fighting Schmales coming in as 5.5-point favorites. The over/under set at 62.
All right, how many more captains are the Fighting Schmales going to get injured this year?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because Nash Jones
Torrey
is
Spears,
out. Torrey Spears is out.
Nash Jones. Jordan Revels.
Oh God, Jordan Revels is a captain. Jeez. All right, I'm not going to name any more captains because I don't need anything to happen to them.
It's like, oh, you're an honorary captain for this game.
I don't think so.
I'm good. I'm good. Start pulling people from the stands. Somebody else do it. No, I am very optimistic for this because
will you be an honourary captain? Will you step up and be an honorary captain?
when I
be
walk
the
on the
second
field.
best Ishmael on the team.
I was about to say yes. I'm very especially now after last week. Ishmael Mahdi ran for over 200 yards. I'm very much okay being the second best. I'm very optimistic about this game. After in the fashion they won last week, coming down from 17-0 to end up blowing out Nevada. This USM Southern Miss, they're not that great. right now. And if this was a year ago, I still feel very worried about like how low can the season go. Now, again, conference is conference, and we'll see exactly how this team takes care of business in conference, but all the signs point to me being optimistic. I'll just go ahead and tease. I have a piece on TJ Finley coming out. He's playing fantastic right now. Defense could be a little better. That's what's if I had a worry, that's still my worry, is that Baylor, that to me says more about what Baylor was on offense as opposed to that defense being good. Now that we have more games under their belt.
And to watch out for, especially with that defense, is that like Southern Miss has Frank Gore Jr.
That's a good point.
At running back.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah,
The backup has averaged seven yards a carry.
I was about to say Rodriguez Clark is averaging 7 yards a carry. So again, Nevada was able to move. There's a reason why they got that 17-0 lead. They're able to move the ball. Jackson State was able to move the ball a little bit, like until Texas State blew them out later. They were able to kind of like trade drives. So defensively, they have some things to figure out. I still feel confident in them, though. That offense is clicking. They have like 5 running backs. It's crazy to see. Finley's clicking. Of course, Malik Hornsby. They've had some packages for him. So I'm very confident heading into this one.
I'm confident in Texas State, too, because they're kind of battle-tested already through non-conference play. I mean, they played a Power 5 team, got punched in the mouth by UTSA, rebounded and blew out Jackson State, and then they had to have a come-from-behind game against Nevada. So they played like every type of game already, and that's like – especially with a new coach, now they all know his temperament for every situation.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
No one's doing it like Kenny, making sure he has every type of game in the non-conference so they know what to expect.
Oh,
True.
That's a great point. I didn't realize that. That's actually a good point about the different scenarios. So, didn't think about that.
All right, let's keep it rolling with SMU hosting Charlotte this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. You can watch it on ESPNU. SMU coming in as 23.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 52.
All right. SMU, I know last week hurt. That was an ego shot. They really thought they'd be having a better chance at that game. I think TCU – I don't even think TCU looked spectacular, and I think that's why it's more demoralizing is because they just handled business against SMU, and it was like, oh, man. We thought SMU would maybe have a New Year's Six shot. I still think they're a contender in the AAC, especially with UTSA kind of, whatever they are with Frank Harris's status. So there's still everything to play for. They should flex in this game. Charlotte's not good. I know they're under a rebuild under Biff Poggi, but they just have not been that great. Their defense, of course, they played some good offenses. Maryland, Florida's not that great of an offense, but like they held their own against Florida. This should be where SMU gets back to basics of, okay, hey, maybe we're not a New Year's Six bowl team, unbeaten run type of thing, or not unbeaten, but like one loss type of team. But we still should be considered with Tulane probably as like the top team in this conference. So I think this is a chance to just steamroll Charlotte.
Yeah, and I think it still could be a very successful season, even if they don't reach like the New Year's Six bowl level type hype, because they had so many transfers too. Like that was my biggest worry with SMU is were they going to gel?
Yep.
With so many new faces. And I feel like the offense hasn't gelled as much as we thought it would. When I listened to y'all's Sunday episode, like Craven made a good point about like the Preston Stone passing game has not looked like as electric as we thought it was. I think it still can.
Yeah.
I think Preston Stone's really talented. They just haven't figured it out exactly yet. This is where they start to figure it out.
Yeah.
This ramp up, Sonny Dykes mentioned it, like they're going to be favored in their next 8 games. Like Charlotte, ECU, Temple, Tulsa, like go 4-0 in these next 4 games. Now, if this game's a struggle, on the flip side,
We'll see. Yeah.
I'm looking at the panic button a little bit.
I'll see. I think the difference, and I think this goes into why maybe Preston Stone hasn't been as electric as we thought. When you lose a Rashee Rice, right, that game-breaking wide receiver, I think their wide receiver room is good. I think they're still waiting for that alpha to kind of emerge. And there's so much that can just open up when you have that premier wide. They've always had that from James Prochet to Rashee Rice. I'm forgetting the guy before him. But, like, there's always been that game-breaking, play-stretching wide receiver. And it does not shock me. It worries me a little bit that maybe we haven't seen that far. Maybe this is just a year where they have a bunch of good players and not necessarily that next level NFL caliber type of guy. I maybe thought that'd be like a Roderick Daniels maybe coming into his own, maybe a Jake Bailey, but again, maybe they're just all like really good receivers.
They're all really good, but none of them are the game breaker.
Sure, exactly. I guess I'm hoping that maybe that turns into, he's not a receiver, but like an RJ Maryland, right, at tight end, because I do think he has the potential to be that. But again, if that's where the offense is this year, that's where the offense is this year, and I still think this is a good enough offense to get it done, especially with the running game being the way it is.
All right, let's close it out with TCU hosting West Virginia this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. That's out of order. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Maybe I meant to put 6:30. I don't remember.
No, I think it's 2:30.
Yeah.
Wait.
No, wait. It's 7. It's 7.
Okay.
It is 7.
7 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN2. TCU coming in as 12-point favorites. The over/under set at 50.5.
Yeah. West Virginia's 3-1. Anybody realize this?
Are they really?
Yeah, they're 3-1.
Okay, but who they played?
I know, but I mean, they beat Tech last week. They're only
that's a
lost.
good win.
They're only lost to Penn State. They beat Pitt, who Pitt's. I mean, they look
Pitt's
fine.
okay.
They look fine. Then they beat Duquesne, which of course.
How bad did they lose to Penn State?
38-15.
Pretty handedly.
Yeah.
At least they were able to put up points, though.
I was about to say Penn State's a top
Penn State.
5. They're 7th right now. I don't know. I just looked at their record and I was like, they're 3-1.
It's a little bit of paper tiger.
Not
Yeah.
bad. True.
It was like Auburn's 3-0 last week. It's like
Yeah, that's a good, actually
not really.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
I saw right through that.
Yeah, we did.
I will say, so they only played one away game as well. That was Penn State.
Okay.
So Morgantown is a tough place to play.
It is.
Even before Tyler Shutt got hurt, Tech was really struggling in Morgantown. And they always struggle on the road. But meaning TCU should roll, I think. As close to rolling as you can be in the Big 12.
Right.
I think that whether or not I think Baylor is the bottom of the Big 12, I don't think that the bottom is awful as we've seen in past years of the Big 12. I think that everybody is respectable. Again, we'll see how the bottom actually shapes out. But look, West Virginia, we know that Neil Brown's basically coaching for his job.
Mm-hmm.
They hired Ren Baker at athletic director, and he basically said he's going to give him one more year. And so, like, there is some motivation to actually do some stuff here. West Virginia's I want to say I was impressed a little bit with West Virginia's defense last week, but I'm also just talked about how down I was on the Tech offense.
It was more down on Tech than impressed with West Virginia.
So I think TCU should roll very comfortably because I do think Chandler Morris, and that's a hint to Peace Carter as coming out. I think Chandler Morris is playing his best ball, and I think last week was his best game.
Yeah, he looked pretty surgical last week. I think he's been really impressive, honestly. I mean, even in that Colorado game, there were some whispers about, like, is this really the guy to follow Max Duggan? I mean, you look at the offense, though, 42, 41, 36, 34 in all the games. Like, the offense is rolling, and the defense now has given up, like, they gave up one touchdown, I think, in 11 quarters before that last quarter against SMU when SMU kind of got some respect touchdowns. Look, West Virginia this week, Iowa State next week. Hopefully both of those are wins. You would think if you're a TCU fan, that means 5-1 right there. I'm not trying to jump ahead too much. Got to play the game in front of you, of course. But like, I think this offense looks balanced. It looks methodical. That was the big thing against SMU. It's like I wrote in that piece about it after the game. It was like TCU win that game to physically outclass TCU. SMU win the game. We're going to physically outclass TCU.
We have the same level of players as you.
We have the same level of players as you. Oh, and then whenever we throw, we're going to throw deep. Yeah. Because we're trying to make a statement.
Trying to go for the kill shot, and they never could get it.
And TCU was just like, we're just methodical. We're just, 5 yards, and then pop one for a touchdown. And it was just like, it looked kind of easy for TCU's offense.
Yeah. No, looking back on Parker Stats of War on Twitter, his advanced stats graphic, 18th in EPA per pass on offense, and 17th in EPA per rush. Imani Bailey's rushed for 100 yards in every game except for Nicholls State, which they pulled him because they didn't need him that much. So they have, like you mentioned, they have the balance. Chandler Morris finally looks like he's clicking. Yeah, I feel very confident in this team right now, and I think we'll continue to look at them as, Texas and Oklahoma are up here, and we're kind of waiting for that number 3-4 to kind of emerge very firmly. And I don't think it's a stretch state. I think TCU is one of those teams. So I'm trying to think who they have next week because I don't think they'll.
Iowa State.
Yeah. Geez, they have a great on ramp to the rest of to the Big 12.
Really do.
I think at BYU. this is a very favorable schedule for them. I guess I didn't really think of that.
It's backloaded.
It's backloaded, yeah. So still, regardless, I think by the end of this month, we'll have a very good indication that TCU is probably one of the best teams in this conference.
I think TCU is legit.
I think so too. All right, so
UTSA has a bye week.
Yes, UTSA is a
next
bye
week
week
they
as well.
have their AAC opener.
Much needed bye week.
Much needed bye week.
Yes. And they open up against Temple, yeah, like you said. So, awesome. So that'll do it for us. We'll be back with another Sunday recap edition. Please check out TexasFootball.com. Remember, I mentioned Craven's story on Sam Houston. I'm going to tease Carter's story about Chandler Morris. By the time you're listening to this on Thursday, it should be out. And then please keep it tuned all weekend long. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, by the way, you may have gotten that in your email on Fridays and Mondays. Have a lot of our college content, I should say, in the newsletter. Please subscribe to that. I believe we have your email. You already are. All our shows on Republican football, please listen to all of them as they're previewing and reviewing the week. And remember, promo code DCTF for home field apparel, 15% off your first time purchase. Give it to a friend if you've already made your first time purchase. And that'll do it for us. Rutgers, go Rutgers. And Jimbo Fisher, please give us a call. Mallory, what's the record?
I think they're 3-1. Go Rutgers!
Go Rutgers.